Hello, my name is Gerry Morgan, and I am applying for the research assistant position with the PBIS apps team. I'm going to spend a few minutes going through my qualifications and background and follow that with a short presentation about the multi-tiered system of support model and how that plays into student outcomes. I graduated from the University of Oregon in 1997 with a master's in special education, early intervention, early childhood special ed, and I've been working in the field of education ever since. I've been a service coordinator and behavior specialist, designing individualized interventions for children with special needs and behavior challenges. I have been a classroom teacher in a specialized classroom focused on social emotional learning. I've been a PBIS coach. I have been a trainer, training hundreds of teachers over the course of my career. And I've been a parent educator, helping to support parents with systems at home and in the community to support their children's behavior needs. I've been involved in leadership in the state of Oregon and PBIS for a number of years. Some of the highlights include, in 2007, I was part of designing a pilot study in conjunction with the Oregon Department of Education and the University of Oregon to roll out early childhood positive behavior support systems across the state. It was quite a success, and we used the data that we gathered from that study to inform practices ever since. I was also part of a 3.5-year implementation of PBIS systems in a large center-based childcare program serving about 700 children. It was a birth to 5 program, and it was fascinating to see the impact in infant, toddler, and preschool rooms of supporting teacher behavior to support child behavior. And I've had a relationship with the Northwest PBIS Network for a number of years. I've been on their board of directors. I have been an advisor, I have led conference planning committees, and I have presented at their conferences, both the regular conference and the coaches conferences, many times over the years. I am an experienced trainer. I am a master trainer with the Oregon Registry. I have trained large groups, small groups, organizations, programs. I've presented to ODE panels in the past, and I've presented at conferences at the local, regional, state, and national level. I have designed many presentations over the years, mostly focused on behavior and special needs, including PBIS implementation, including sensory systems, data collection, coaching for PBIS, and also parenting, both parent education and parent involvement. Now, I do have experience with web-based applications in a variety of different areas. Those include, in 2011, I created a blog that was followed by over 200 users with daily entries that I created highlighting behavior change, highlighting data collection, and including behavior support plans. And I would love to tell you more about that if and when we get to the interview part of this process. I created a website that includes behavior support materials and articles and tools that has been seen by individuals inside and outside the United States and is linked to by educational agencies. I have used behavior incident reports along with Excel spreadsheets and also used the Swiss system to track data and use that data to create graphs, to analyze the data, and to be able to use that data for planning purposes for individual student needs. I have developed training materials using Panopto, which combines video and presentation materials such as PowerPoint slides, and I do have some examples of that. And I am using Screencast-O-Matic for the first time, and I gotta say, I'm a fan. It's a very simple system, and I look forward to using it more in other contexts. So now I'm going to proceed to give a short presentation about multi-tiered systems of support, and it's an evidence-based model that is used to help support educators in thinking about how to frame the needs of a population, of a typical population, in terms of their varying level of need. I've seen this in 1,001 presentations, and I've actually used this model in many presentations of my own in varying forms. Tier 1, represented here by the green, is universal systems. And universal systems, we can think of things like the general education curriculum, clear expectations, established predictable routines, the learning environment, universal systems which should be in place for 100% of students. And those systems are typically going to be enough to support the academic or behavioral needs of about 80% of students in a typical population. Tier 2, which is the secondary or targeted level, is really aimed at those students who might be at risk for academic or behavior needs. And this level is meant to provide prevention to keep them from rising to the level of needing more intensive interventions. So at this level, we might be thinking about things like targeted social emotional teaching strategies, small group instruction in specific academic areas, or systems like check-in, check-out, which can help support students in hopefully getting back on track in terms of either their behavior or their academics. And then at Tier 3, represented here by the red, we're looking at about 5% of a population who might require intensive individualized interventions. And those interventions may look like what we're doing at the green and yellow levels, but done in a more frequent, more intensive, more individualized manner for those students based upon an established plan. Those interventions that are put in place at Tier 2 and Tier 3 are only going to be effective if universal systems are in place for those students as well. And sometimes that's the challenge in helping to support teachers in thinking about the needs of those more needy students. So we do need to be focusing on the level of need of a student in every academic area. And in student-centered decision-making, we are essentially asking the question, is the student successful at the current level of intervention? So if we're looking at the student in this particular example, this student is being successful with universal systems in math and in social emotional development. But this student is requiring some additional supports when it comes to reading, and this student is requiring more intensive supports when it comes to writing. So we certainly aren't going to label this child a red zone child. In fact, we don't want to label children at all if we can avoid it. So this is not a red zone student. This is a student who has red zone levels of need in writing and is requiring some extra supports in reading and is doing well in social emotional and math. So as the student's level of need rises, we also need to be thinking about data collection and how we do need more intensive data collection when it comes to children whose level of need is rising to the red zone level. So data collection is a continuous cycle where we are constantly looking at whether or not we're meeting the child's needs. And we start with evaluation to determine the child's level of need and use that to set goals and to come up with interventions. So I do realize my webcam is covering up the plan and develop solutions part of this cycle, but that's an important part of planning for the student, coming up with interventions that are going to meet the child's needs. And we have to make sure that we're implementing them with integrity. So that's part of a continuous cycle as well. And if we are seeing that they are not being implemented with fidelity, then we need to make some changes, and we might need to adjust in mid-course as well. And then we monitor those outcomes and see if the child is meeting the goals and reassess or revise interventions or solutions as needed. And this continuous cycle will help us to ensure that the child is making progress and help us to make sure that we're doing things to fidelity to meet that child's needs. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to apply for this position. I really do hope you strongly consider me for this position, and I would love to be a part of your team. Thank you very much.